Free zombie takeout. I was beginning to like this city. Hello and welcome to Zombie Takeout, the B-movie and cult movie show. I'm John.
And I'm Scotto.
And since this is our first video going out in June, even though we're recording it in May, and since I almost forgot it last year, I just want to take a minute to wish everyone a happy Pride.
Yes, happy Pride.
And on to some feedback. This is from Bodo on Twitter in reference to last week's movie. Rollerball 2 should have been called We Have Nothing in Common with the Original One. Made me angry and bored. That's a horrible combination. Thank God for beer.
Not been made or melted or
yeah.
Someone just take a magnet over whatever they were using to store the original on.
Or just torch it. That always destroys it.
Yeah.
Anyway, on to this week's movie, which is from 1992, El Mariachi. This concludes our Robert Rodriguez two-parter, which we started 3 weeks ago.
Something like that, yeah.
Nothing more zombie takeout than interrupting a two-parter with a two-parter, except maybe interrupting a two-parter with a trilogy.
I guess we should have put Inception in the middle of the middle two-part.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, wow.
Simple explanation.
We lost opportunity.
We had the Rollerball movies lined up for our 10th anniversary episode. We probably should have just continued with the Rodriguez.
Yes.
Anyway, on to this week's movie. That brings us to the impromptu plot summary, which is sponsored by Mistaken Identity. It's not just for French farce anymore.
And also brought to you by beer. In a bottle, dumbass. You took that very seriously.
And I was just thinking, of the pop that he always did. He kept leaving behind. I almost said something, but then I realized I was thinking wrong.
All right, so we have a mariachi looking for work, traveling from town to town, up and down the dial. Really, I was going to reference Three's Company with this, but I guess you could also say it's the plot of WKRP.
Yeah, he is a bit Andy. The migrant. Instead of being the itinerant, is that the word? Program director, he's the itinerant guitarist.
Right. He winds up in this town where, he's mistaken for someone else, and it's really comical that he's mistaken for someone else because they look nothing alike.
Aside from the fact that they are both vaguely wearing black.
They both wear black, and they both have guitars, and that was enough for
the guitar cases, right?
Right. These goons to go after him, and he winds up kicking their asses pretty much throughout most of the movie.
Accidentally in most cases.
In some cases, yeah, but in others, in spectacular fashion, he just beats the shit out of these guys.
That is dumb plot armor.
So yeah, the goon that he's mistaken for is I guess he was a drug dealer who was broken out of prison. They went to the prison to kill him for some reason, which doesn't make much sense. They could have just left him there to rot, but instead they send people with guns to kill him, and that goes south, and he winds up escaping instead, and coming after the guy whose goons he sent after the wrong person. Yeah. Have you got all that? All right, so he's hiding out in this bar, performing publicly, even though there are these guys looking for him, and they wind up getting the girl, and of course that lures him out, and they all confront each other, and hilarity ensues.
Okay, I got a little confused there because you switched from Azul to the mariachi at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, I lost it. Anyway, movie's a lot less confusing than that. Love the nice quiet opening.
Yes.
Because it starts with this almost silent scene of a truck pulling up to a jail. And the guard, the warden is leaving this one guard in charge, and then the killers come in. And they build up. Oh no! Before the killers come in, Azul, the guy who's about to get knocked or attempt to get knocked off, gets a call from his boss, Moko, or a former boss, and Azul says he wants a piece of the money, wants to be let out of jail, yada yada, because Moko pretty much owns the entire town. And did you notice that Azul reached for the phone before it rang?
No.
He was already reaching for the phone when it started to ring.
Do you think it was just a sound
I think it
sync-up
was a
thing
sound
of
issue
theirs?
because the sound, well, not with mine, because the sync was fine.
Oh yeah.
The sound was recorded separately. Nothing. It was silent on the set. The film was recorded silently.
Yeah.
So I think it was just a little flub with the actor was probably cued a few seconds too early or earlier than they ended up putting the sound effect in. But I loved how the beginning built tension
Yes.
because you didn't know what was going to happen.
Oh, you knew something was going to happen.
I also thought Azul was working at the jail. I didn't realize he was a prisoner until Moko said so.
Right. It's kind of I think it was a Goodfellas thing where, they're just running business
Yeah,
through the prison cell.
Yeah. Also, when the hitman walked in, it was very Reservoir Dogs.
Yes.
They had the suits, they were in step.
And this was pre-Reservoir Dogs,
the
isn't it?
same year as Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, same years. Okay.
Apparently, from what I was reading, Tarantino saw the premiere of this and was so impressed that he wanted to work with Rodriguez down the road. By the way, this film cost just over $7,000 to produce.
That is damn impressive, actually.
Primer was $7,000 too, I believe.
Yeah.
And was originally intended for the Mexican home video market, but executives at Columbia Pictures liked the film and bought the American distribution rights. Columbia eventually spent $200,000 to transfer it to film, to remix the sound and on other post-production work, and then spent millions on marketing and distribution. And Rodriguez raised most of the initial $7,000 by participating in experimental drug clinics.
Think about it. Kevin Smith, Clerks, that was $27,000, and there was no special effects or anything.
Primer didn't really have any special effects. Really,
no, it did.
They just climbed in and out of a box. It was just a really impressive story. So
I think Kevin Smith, he did his on real film though.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think that's what the difference in price was. Yeah. It wasn't. He didn't colorize it, which would have cost God knows how much more back then. But I mean, yeah, it was mostly just real film that he spent his money on.
Now, I had seen El Mariachi many years ago, so I didn't really remember much of it, and I was really surprised that Azul outgunned the hitman. I figured, okay, he's just going to get knocked off. That's going to set up a plot somehow. So I was very surprised when he took it over. Although the opening title music was a bit too dramatic for what they had going.
It kind of, it kind of had this whole spaghetti western feel to it.
I get that. It sounded like video game music to me. Like it was clearly a synthesizer, someone with a couple of synthesizers. I got a very video game kind of feel. Although it did kind of match the low budget thing. I, for some reason, just love the aesthetic of very low budget movies.
Yeah.
Good or bad. There's something about that feel that I love.
And he definitely gets his money's worth here, I mean, it is just amazing achievement that he did this for only $7,000. Yeah. It's just like, wait, what? How's it even possible?
Yeah. And the music does get better after that opening title sequence. I love the kind of heavy drums and electric guitar music when Azul gets picked up from the jail. And some of the nice classical, Spanish guitar when the mariachi is introduced.
Right.
And he is a classic man with no name.
Yeah.
I love just how mellow he was in his introduction.
Everything about him is just like, oh, so that happened kind of thing. Like they're after me again, I guess. It was a little reminiscent of Forrest Gump, even though this is before that.
And the mariachi's going to these different bars and trying to get work. Keeps getting turned down. In the first bar he goes to, he's told that they already have a band.
Oh man!
And the bartender points over to this guy sitting by an electric keyboard, a synthesizer, and the guy gets up and plays this horrible music on it. I love that gag.
Yeah,
I mean, the music was horrible, but the gag was
Of
great.
course. Oh yeah. But it's just, I mean, it's just such a true statement, you know.
Yeah.
What do we need this actual artistry for? We've got this thing.
What do we need a band when we have a DJ?
Oof.
Not
Oh,
putting down DJs. It is a skill and an art, and I respect it. But
right.
as a musician, that hurts a bit. Now there are some bloopers in the film,
Yeah,
and they were left in to save money, basically,
of
because he
course.
didn't reshoot anything. The free coconut scene
Yeah.
when the voiceover. Well, okay, in the beginning, you have El Mariachi buying this coconut, and the guy cuts it open and sticks a straw in it, and hands it to him. You don't see him pay for it. And then you have El Mariachi in a voiceover talking about how the city is great because they have free coconuts. That voiceover was put in because they forgot to shoot him paying for the coconut.
Uh,
And Rodriguez was so stingy, he didn't want to do any reshoots.
well, I mean, right. It's probably something they didn't notice until
Mhm.
long
Well,
after.
no, he knew shortly after. He just didn't have the money to reshoot it.
Yeah. To
Um,
come back with the guy and the same lighting and everything
yeah, and there's a
just would
stunt
have been
with
terrible.
a bus where El Mariachi falls onto a bus from a cable. You can see Rodriguez in the shot.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't reshot. Another one at the end where a character is dead. I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah.
You can see their eye twitching after they die.
It's possible that muscle
Well, no, it was just a mistake on the
twitches.
day. Yeah, it was a mistake on the day, and they knew about it.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to spend any money on reshoots, so he left it in.
Print, Edward.
Exactly. Also, when one of the guys in the bar gets shot, and that's shortly after the keyboard player, Azul shows up and the bar gets shot up. You can see the squib when his shirt opens up a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, that scene set up, of course, you're kind of like, yeah, shoot that keyboard player.
Well, yeah, that too. And I love that Azul actually came back for his beer and paid for it because he said he does take the beer very seriously, as opposed
or
to
that
Mario.
Mariachi risks his life to go back to the motel for a few pesos.
No, no, no. He risked his life to go back for his guitar, and as someone who plays, totally reasonable.
No, well, yeah, he does that, but then remember, he was like, "Wait a minute, I gave him, money for
Oh,
the
right.
room."
Later on, he goes to Domino's place to go get his few pesos back. Yeah, I forgot that part.
Yes, he goes back to the hotel to get just a few pesos back from him.
Because earlier in the film, he's like really trying to avoid them. It was the first time they really confronted him. And he realized he left his guitar at the hotel that he just ran from. He runs back to the hotel, avoiding the gunman to get his guitar. Every guitar player would do that.
Of course. It was the few pesos that I was like, wow, wait, what?
Although they established that Moko is the only person who has seen Azul.
Yeah.
Couldn't he have given a better description than just wearing black and carrying a guitar case?
Moko, who I like to think of as the Mexican Hugh Grant.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, they established he's not Hispanic.
Yeah, right.
They refer to him as a gringo. And it's Richard Marquardt. The name rings a bell. Can't think of anything I've specifically seen him in though. But yeah, so they established that he's not Mexican.
Yeah.
But he could have said, wearing black when in actuality all that was black was Azul's vest.
Yeah, give a some description of his build, his
Maybe
complexion.
the fact that he has a mustache and
You're right.
Mariachi doesn't. Also at one of the bars. Oh no, it wasn't one of the bars. It was the bar where Domino works, or maybe upstairs from there. He says he can't smoke or drink because he's a singer.
Right.
Accurate for smoking, but I've never heard that singers shouldn't drink. In fact, it's common to take a shot before you have to perform to coat your throat. So I have no idea what the not drinking was about with regard to that.
I mean, I always thought it could be rough on the throat. Some alcohols are different, I think.
So maybe some is, but taking a drink to coat your throat before you sing is a very common practice.
Yeah.
So you don't wear it out.
Some partake too much.
Well, that's why you just do a little shot, and some can partake on stage and nail it.
Yeah.
Misa from Bandmate is notorious for taking a shot a swig from a whiskey bottle between songs.
Eddie Vedder, for some reason, drinks like has been drinking wine. I don't know
Mhm.
how many years. He's had like a bottle of wine out, like
Nice.
kills it off during the
Mhm.
show.
If he can perform.
And I would think
Speaking
wine would be terrible on your voice.
No, I don't think so. Speaking of drinks, of course, Elzul takes his beer very seriously.
Yes.
The Mariachi doesn't really care much about his sodas because
No.
every bar he goes to, he orders a soda before he pitches himself.
Yeah.
And when he gets rejected, he just walks out and leaves the soda there. You paid for it. It's in a bottle. It's not like it's in a glass that they own. You can just take it with you. And he just leaves the soda behind. Also, what was with his nightmares?
Yeah, I thought that was going to actually lead to something where, he was,
Well,
pointed in a certain direction, but it never really does go anywhere.
although they kind of established that he might be kind of psychic because he has these nightmares where he's laying on the ground in this bombed out area with this door standing with nothing attached to it, and this little kid playing with a severed head. Was it supposed to be his head?
I don't know, but then he sees the kid in real life in the middle of
Mhm.
like one of the chase scenes, and then nothing really comes of that,
No, but the first time he had the dream was right before Amoko's men show up at the hotel to find him.
I mean, it does, warn him that he is in danger
Yeah,
for the first time, but other than that,
yeah,
he has them afterwards,
yeah. The second
and they
time,
never
nothing
lead to
happened.
anything.
Yeah, it was weird.
I wonder if he had another plot in mind that he just never, I mean, he rewrote and never fixed that part of the
Hmm.
film.
Yeah, maybe. Or just because maybe he ran out of money for that
No.
bit. Um,
Now,
no-
stylistically, a lot of the chases and stuff reminds me of a movie we did a long time ago.
okay, which one?
That of course predates this. The sped up action.
Hmm.
It's very the gods must be crazy.
Oh
I
yeah, yeah,
thought
yeah.
like
Speaking of sped up, I loved the hotel manager. The sped up footage of him
right.
calling Moko after the mariachi checks in 2 times. Love that. And there are some very humorous moments. Even though it's overall a drama. Um, one of the times he goes back to the hotel, I think when he went back to get his guitar, he's looking for a weapon. He looks up to this plaque on the wall and takes this little morning star, like this big. Literally the worst weapon he could have gotten.
Of course.
I'm glad they never had him actually try to use it because
I
I
kind
don't
of
know
was
what you would have
disappointed
done
they
with that.
didn't try to
Oh
use
yeah,
it.
true, true. I don't know how he would have used that against guns. Um, Loved this stunt, even though I mentioned that Rodriguez was visible in the shot. Loved that he fell from the cable. He did this kind of sliding across a cable thing of a TV cable
Yeah.
onto a bus, and somehow kept his guitar. It landed on the bus and just stayed there.
It was like the hat from the old movies,
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
where
exactly.
the adventurer always had his hat on somehow, no matter how far he fell or whatever.
And again, this is just guitar player nitpicking stuff, but because nobody else is going to think of this. But he's fighting with his guitar case, and it's this cheap chipboard case
Yeah.
that is basically just cardboard. You try to fight with that thing, you're going to break the guitar, and the case is just going to fall apart. But he
I
manages to fight with
really
it.
thought it was going to get shot, actually,
Mhm.
because they were shooting at him, and he's kind of behind the guitar
Yeah,
case.
yeah. Speaking of shooting, they never explain how he knew how to shoot so well. Because there are a couple of scenes where he gets a gun, and he's really good with it.
Right, and then he
This
just
really mellow guitar player who you would think is, the most peaceful guy in the world, really knows how to shoot.
and then kind of apologetically puts it down
Yeah,
and
yeah.
runs away. It's really funny stuff. I mean, this movie could have been over within the first 5 minutes if he just like kept going and just like took them all out and just be like, "All right, done.
Mhm.
Hire me now to play."
Mhm. And of course, he ends up getting involved with the woman that Moko is interested in
Yeah,
because it's that kind of movie. I love that his attempts to be smooth with her just completely fell flat. She didn't buy it at all.
I love, I love the tub scene.
The improvised lyrics are great.
Yes, could be one of the best parts of the movie, actually.
Hated seeing the guitar get wet though.
Yeah, I was like, is that? Okay.
That's not good though.
But he didn't have much of a choice in the matter.
Hmm.
Didn't want to be opened like a letter.
Right, of course, of course. Of course, also, Carlos Gallardo, who played the mariachi, did not play guitar.
Oh,
I
yeah.
could tell those by his hands. No, he was not.
Yeah.
I do like that she didn't just immediately fall for him, which
Right.
does happen in these kind of movies often. He actually had to work for it.
And I mean, it's not even a long movie either, so they really do like pack it in, you know? It's not even an hour and a
No,
half.
it's an hour 21, if I recall
Yeah.
correctly.
I love the dispute of the body count.
Hmm.
You
Yes,
killed 10 of my guys. 6.
because Azul thinks he knows he killed six,
Yeah.
and then the mariachi somehow killed 10. And so, Azul or Moko thinks they're the same person.
Mariachi killed 4. Azul
Oh,
killed
oh, okay.
6.
That's how it works. Okay,
So
that
yeah,
makes sense.
they're going back and forth. You killed 10. I only killed 6. What are you talking about?
I was wondering how the mariachi could have killed 10. Now, 4 makes sense.
Right.
Including 2 who were in a truck, out the window pointing at him.
Yes.
And
That
he
could be
just
my favorite.
charges them, runs up onto the truck and over the top of it.
Two of them firing at
They
each other.
turn to follow him and shoot at each other.
I
That
tell
was
you,
a beautiful scene.
I'm a
But
sucker for Mad Magazine Spy versus Spy,
exactly.
and that was it.
And it is the most egregious plot armor I have ever seen in my life, but I love it.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
Also, okay, so there's another level of farce in this. Not only everybody thinking the mariachi is Azul, but also the guitar cases get mixed up.
Yes.
He leaves his guitar at the bar because he's going to go retrieve his pesos from the hotel.
Where's it in my notes? Uh, I'd almost be disappointed if he didn't have the wrong case.
Yeah, well, it has to happen.
Yeah.
He goes back to get his money from the hotel, which explains why, because he had to set up
Leave
that
his
scene.
guitar case.
Azul shows up at the bar while he's gone, and there's the 2 cases there. Azul grabs the wrong one. Okay, I've never held a gun, but from what I understand, they're a lot heavier than they
But a
look.
guitar. I was thinking the same thing.
They're a lot heavier than they look, and it's a machine gun in the case, along with several other weapons that sorry about the mic if that made noise, that I have held. I do rather like melee weapons. And so, I know that weighed a fucking ton. And I know what a nylon, I have 6 acoustic guitars. I know what they weigh. There's no competition there. So I don't know how Azul picked up an acoustic guitar thinking it was his weapons.
I mean, it's kind of a TARDIS guitar case in the first place because how much ammo did he have crammed in that guitar?
True.
Although when they showed it, you didn't see any ammo.
He had the unlimited. He had the unlimited ammo hack.
Right. You just see a couple guns. You see a few other weapons in there. There's no fucking bullets.
But Azul picks up the guitar, not realizing that it's probably about 10 pounds lighter than his case. Walks out with it. Mariachi comes back, picks up what he thinks is his case, immediately knows it's the weapons because of how much it weighs. One catches that, the other doesn't. He picks it up within seconds, like, no, this is not my case. Opens it and sees the weapons. And then, okay, probably the most unrealistic thing in the movie.
Really?
And I hate to nitpick this, but
okay.
At one point, his guitar, obviously Azul walks off with his guitar, so he doesn't have it anymore. And he's playing at Domino's bar. So she's handing him money to go get another guitar so he can keep playing there.
Yeah.
And he turns it down. No musician would turn down an opportunity to buy new gear, whether or not you're giving them money. But especially if you're handing them money and telling them buy gear, no musician would ever turn that down.
But
there's something called gear acquisition syndrome. Every musician has it. We always want new instruments.
But he didn't want to take money from Domino. I mean,
it was to buy a new guitar. He wanted to take it.
He was too proud for that.
Mm-hmm. There's another death. Well, okay, how do we feel about spoilers?
I don't think we should spoil this one.
Okay.
This one,
it surprised me. Or it would have surprised me without the trivia.
You're right.
because it's not a move that this movie would normally take.
Right.
Um,
They go in a direction that you don't really see coming.
mhm.
I mean, they kind of hint to it in the beginning, but I mean, they
Yeah.
go further than they even hint
Right. Because at the beginning, you think it's just a typical Man with No Name movie.
Yeah.
They set that up, and then they set up the farce, and okay, you know that. You know the rules of both of these things. And then they break the rules,
Yeah.
which is surprising. Hated seeing the mariachi get shot in the hand.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
That hurt me. But the gore was impressive. And I mean, the gore was kind of iffy in this movie. I mean, it's not trauma. They don't spend a lot of money on that. But when he gets shot in the hand, that gore was nice.
Oh yeah, that was like, oof. That really, you really, I mean, it was believable, definitely.
Yeah. And I also love that shortly thereafter, Moko's men proved that they have no loyalty.
Well, that you kind of saw coming. That was not a surprise either.
Yeah. After, Moko repeatedly lit his cigarette on his lieutenant.
Right.
Or lit his match, rather, on his lieutenant. Yeah, he was clearly abusive.
And then after not giving them proper, directions, really,
right.
really what their whole flaw of the operation has been was his lack of instruction and detail.
Right.
And it just, I mean, to be like, we went through all this shit, we got the wrong guy because you didn't give us the right description. We would have never gone after this guy.
Right.
Had you just told us what he fucking looked like.
4 of us probably would have survived.
Right. A lot of them would have survived.
Well, only 4, because that's all the mariachi killed. I mean,
was it?
Azul would have killed. Well, at that point, maybe he killed more later.
I thought he killed more after
maybe.
that. Yeah.
Okay, so more would have survived if they weren't after the mariachi. I don't think Azul would have killed that many.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I mean, at least they would have been after him, and it would have been a fair fight.
Oh, true.
Azul had the upper hand because they didn't know they couldn't identify him.
Right. And I loved the monologue at the end.
Yeah,
because he just has nothing and decides to become a mercenary.
Right, and this is, of course,
the beginning of a trilogy.
Yeah. Did you ever come out with the third one?
Yeah, Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Oh, is that related to this too?
That's the third of the trilogy.
Okay.
I've seen all 3, enjoyed all 3, but the first one, honestly, is the best.
Yeah.
This is the best of the trilogy. By the way, the film is recognized by the Guinness Book as the lowest budgeted film ever to gross $1 million at the box office.
Which isn't necessarily true because Columbia spent all that money on it.
Oh yeah, true. Fair point.
Like it's really $207,000.
Right, and it's probably the millions they spent on promotion that really
that's true too.
got it the million at the box office. On 2 sequels and remakes, like I said, this is the beginning of a trilogy. Desperado, it was the sequel in '95, and Once Upon a Time in Mexico, it was the threequel. I think that's the term. In 2003, Antonio Banderas took over the role of the mariachi in the sequels, and Carlos Gallardo produced both films and had a minor role in Desperado.
Which is weird because, I mean, this guy, as I have my notes, Mexican Tears for Fears guy.
He looks a lot like Kurt Smith.
I would never think like, oh yeah, Antonio Banderas could play that role.
Well, yeah, no, I know. And Banderas was breaking at that point, so they wanted somebody who was a star.
Well, right. That's what it obviously was.
And I mean, I like Banderas in comedy. I've said that, and he's good in the role, but he's not Carlos Gallardo. Because what Carlos Gallardo brought to the role was this completely humble, mellow, kind of stumbling idiot.
Yes.
When you bring Banderas in, even though obviously he's hardened by the second movie.
Yeah.
But it's still, he kind of loses that humility and that just kind of, the Hugh Grant quality, effectively. Even though you mentioned Marquardt as Hugh Grant, he's kind of got that accidental Hugh Grant quality.
Well, that would have been funny if they'd casted Hugh Grant.
As Moko, I could have seen. That would have been fun.
As the mariachi.
No. But he has that kind of stumble bum kind of quality that Hugh Grant has.
It's kind of like that Mad TV thing where they had like Woody Allen doing Die Hard and him running with the guns in the air.
So I think Carlos was better in the role than Banderas.
Yeah.
Banderas was. Anyway, on the brains.
On the brains.
I'm going 5. It's damn near perfect for what it is. and it's a masterpiece for the amount that they spent on it.
It is, and I definitely recommend it.
Of
I'm
course.
going 4.5. I mean,
Okay.
it's it's got its charm. It's really good. I think there's just a few things they could have probably polished a little bit more, but it's definitely worth seeing.
All right, and what have we learned?
That you should get your beer in a bottle. I mean, he does have a point. It's kind of watered down out of a tap,
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah,
why
yeah.
wouldn't you want it from the bottle?
And at least it's not in a can.
Yeah.
And I learned that I'm glad I switched to bass because apparently guitarists aren't gods anymore.
No.
All right, that's it for El Mariachi. Until next time, we'll be reviewing Howl's Moving Castle. Getting back to some anime finally. My favorite Miyazaki movie up until his last film, The Wind Rises. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
All right.
Until then, of course, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you
There
are.
you are.